Greetings from Las Vegas and welcome to the EOG Sports Hour. John Kelly with you on a Monday night. Glad to be representing EOG. The three letters stand for Eye on Gaming. EOG.com, a website dedicated to the hearts and minds of sports bettors everywhere. I'm excited about the website's future. We're in the, I'd say the first 2 weeks of a clean start at EOG. September 1, we had a fresh beginning and have some new goals, and I'm excited about what's happening at the website in terms of smart, sophisticated gamblers coming back to the website and having a welcoming committee there to greet the gamblers who arrive. Also had to do a little cleaning of house, addition by subtraction, if you will. Got rid of some of the goofballs, knuckleheads, and I think it's a cleaner presentation now. We're there to share gambling information, specifically sports gambling information. And so far, so good. I think we're going to get better as we move forward, too. I spoke with EOG contributor Boucher today. He's administering an NHL contest for the upcoming season. We're going to have 40 players put up $100 a piece. The house will throw in an extra $1,000. It'll be 125% payback and $5,000 in purse money. Not bad. So that should be a fun competition. And we'll do a similar contest too for the NBA season. That comes up in late October, early November. EOG contributor Hustle Double to help me administering that event. So everyone helping one another. And I like to say, take a little, but give a little as well. So if you're reading the website, get some outstanding sports information, well, maybe pass along a nugget or two if you would. I'd appreciate it greatly. And that's the idea of collective wisdom, all in it together. And you don't have to share everything, but a nugget or two would be nice. And that helps the site going and keep going. And also, I think, adds to the camaraderie and the fraternity of Eye on Gaming. We have a lot of help on the radio show this week. Eric Austin will be our lead guest. Mike Corrigan with the week off. Mike to return to, next Monday night on the show. Tomorrow night, Alan Dinkinson joins us. We'll talk about the wrestling event that took place here in Las Vegas this past Saturday. I saw a lot of EOGers there. Bombsy was in attendance. It was good to see Waz come out and support Dink's efforts. Generous Jay, I hadn't seen him in about 5 years. Generous Jay made an appearance at the event as well. Bill O'Brien, Ron Miller, they were in attendance. My buddies Doug and Daryl took in the action. So it was a fun night at the Las Vegas Roller Hockey Center. We'll let Dink fill in all the details. Got to believe he lost money on the promotion. It's his passion. He was the one who put together the card, rented the arena, brought in the ring, which came at a sizable cost, I am sure. So he probably lost money due to the low turnout, but fun event had by all. And really it was a program that was deserving of a bigger crowd. I would hope one of these casinos here in Las Vegas would get behind Dink's promotion, a Sam's Town or maybe the Orleans, and get their marketing department behind an event like that, because it was certainly a program that deserved a bigger crowd. So Dink tomorrow night. By the way, he told us last time he was here, beginning in October, he'll go head-to-head with members of the EOG community. We've already lined up his first opponent. It will be Looker. It's the gentleman, the math modeler, who defeated Railbird this past weekend. A birdie, a subpar week, rare for him, 2 wins, 5 losses. He liked Seattle, minus the spot against San Diego. I think a lot of people went up in flames with the Seahawks. The Super Bowl champs did not look good. San Diego did look good. The Chargers won going away in that contest. And so the Super Bowl champs start the season 1-1. Birdie went as far to say as the Seattle Seahawks are the best NFL team in the history of the league. That may be a bit much, and we'll ask him about that statement on Friday when he joins us, when his opponent will be Paul McDonald, by the way, in the Friday night showdowns. Paulie Mack, well-known in Las Vegas. He's been here in town since the mid-1990s. He'll come with 7 sharp plays, I am sure, on Friday night. Pro plays or college plays, sides or total. So it'll be good to have Paulie Mack in studio and on the air Friday night. Looker, the math modeler, was not here this past week, but he guarantees me that he'll appear Tuesday night, first Tuesday in October, to meet Dink in a head-to-head competition. He'll be on the air going up against Dink in that competition. So we'll have Tuesday night matchups and Friday night matchups. A lot of plays to come your way from what we hope are some sharp handicappers and gamblers. We know Dink and Birdie have been around, and they're going to come with their best. We'll see what the opponents have to say when they make their appearances. I mentioned Waz. He was at the wrestling event Saturday night. Waz told me he would go up against Railbird in a Friday night competition. So that event starting to look good. We've got guys like Heim, Ed the Statman, Hustle, Double, and others signed up to meet Birdie. So it should be a lot of fun on Friday nights. And then, again, Tuesday nights on the program. Let's see, what day of the week was I up to? Wednesday, it'll be Heim and Hustle Double. Thursday, Ed the Statman reappears on the program. Ed was pleased with tonight's Monday night result. Philadelphia defeated Indianapolis 30-27. Ed the Statman posted at EOG.com and on his Twitter handle at Ed the Statman that he liked the Eagles plus the points and the money line. So a good job by Ed sniffing that out. And what a come-from-behind victory by the Eagles, too. We'll talk about that in a moment. And then Friday night, we'll wrap up the week with that Birdie versus Paulie Mack showdown. You're listening to the EOG Sports Hour. Our featured guest tonight, Eric Austin, to join us in about 5 minutes. Eric is a 1984 graduate of Iowa State University, so we can ask him about that Iowa State game that was played this Saturday. Quite the rivalry game, and one in which Iowa State stormed from behind to post an upset victory. They were double-digit underdogs in that game against the Big Ten rep, Iowa. The Big Ten in the tank. I reported last week Big Ten was 2-12 against the spread last week. I haven't done the numbers this week, but the market, it's not new to the market. The market knows the Big Ten is no good, even though they went 2-12 against the spread. And I'll check the point spread record tonight and report back tomorrow on how the Big Ten is faring. But the market's trying to adjust. They're scrambling, knowing that the Big Ten is no good. A lot of times you can't set these numbers or fade these Big Ten teams enough. Iowa, again, a double-digit favorite, and they lost the game 20-17 to their rivals, Iowa State. We'll ask Eric Austin about that contest and more. In fact, Eric will come to us from his home here in Las Vegas-based sports betting pro who has 2 plays for us tonight. He'll have 2 MLB selections. I'll have 1 baseball selection and 1 college football selection, so you'll hear 4 plays in all. So it'll be good to have Eric on the show tonight. I mentioned the Monday night game, Philly 30, Indianapolis 27, did not get involved, whether it was the side or the total, and wasn't involved in live wagering either. Philadelphia did not score their first touchdown of the game until 4.5 minutes were left in the third quarter, and yet they still put up 30 points tonight. Combined Chip Kelly's offense on that with that fast track and the fast surface in Indianapolis, and you're going to roll up some points. 17-6 at the half, Indy led. It looked like it was an under, but they roared. Philly roared from behind, not only to get the win, but pushed the game over the total as well. The Eagles won it when rookie place kicker Cody Parkey, I remember him from his days at Auburn, hit a 36-yard field goal as time expired. Crazy ending in that game. Happens a lot. Chuck Pagano, the head coach of the Indianapolis Colts, called a timeout just prior to the ball being snapped. So aesthetically, that is ugly. Thankfully, Mike Tirico, the play-by-play man, that ESPN Monday night game, he was on top of it and called it off immediately. So you knew that Parkey was going to have to do it again. 36-yard field goals in this day and age in the NFL, pretty much a chip shot with as good as these kickers have gotten through the years. One player to note on the Philadelphia Eagles, oftentimes we talk about either quarterback Nick Foles or running back LaShawn McCoy. Those two are quite a pair. They were last year. They're going to be tough again this year. And their job's made easier by the addition of Darren Sproles to the Philadelphia Eagles. What an addition for the Eagles. Talk about a Chip Kelly kind of guy. Kelly's going to know exactly how to use Sproles. He'll give McCoy some chances to sit on the sidelines and watch Sproles operate. So McCoy will be fresher in the late stages of a game. And that Eagles team, well, they played the first half to get to the second half. Remember week 1, they were down 17-0 to Jacksonville, then roared from behind, won and covered 34-17 in week 1. Again, down double digits in the first half against Indianapolis. They roared from behind to win outright 30-27 tonight. So Philly moves to 2-0 straight up. 2-0 against the spread. The week 1 cover was somewhat lucky. This cover from behind, I thought that in the end Philly was the better team, although it could have gone bad for Philly. I mean, Indianapolis is driving late in the game. Andrew Luck throws an interception, one that probably should not have happened if the officials in the game didn't call illegal contact. They should have called illegal contact, but there was a no call. Andrew Luck threw to a receiver deep in Philadelphia territory. The ball was picked off, and Luck after the game said, the interception's on him. It was stupid by him to throw that ball. But in the end, Luck just bailing out his teammate and the official because it really wasn't Luck's fault. It wasn't the receiver's fault either. More the fact that maybe the play call. You could fault the play call because you're in field goal range to go up more than a possession. More than 8 points. You could have led by 10 had they kicked the field goal, played it more conservatively. But Luck said they wanted 7 there, not 3, and so that decision could be questioned. But also there was another questionable call late in the fourth quarter that helped Phillies cause a horse collar that many people said it wasn't a horse collar. I wasn't tuned into the game like I could have been or should have been, considering I didn't have a bet on the game. I wasn't as interested in the result. And oftentimes with these calls, they go the wrong way or it's a missed call. You've got to play through the bad calls. I don't buy you don't want to cry over bad calls. They're part of the game. So you got to play through around the officials or through the officials. In these situations and not let it come down to an official's call. You got to play the refs out of the game. And Indianapolis did not do that tonight at home, and they blew an 11-point halftime lead, lost by 3 to the Philadelphia Eagles, 30-27. So Philly moves to 2-0 straight up and against the spread. Indianapolis, 0-2 straight up. I guess they would be... No, they're 1-1 against the spread. They did get in the back door against Denver last week. In week 1, they rallied late to lose by only 7. So Indianapolis joins the teams that are 0-2 straight up. They include Jacksonville, Oakland, Kansas City, the New York Giants, the Tampa Bay Bucks still looking for their first win under Lovie Smith, and the New Orleans Saints are a surprising 0-2 in the early season. We'll step aside and take the first time out of our program. When we return, our featured guest, Eric Austin, joins the program. I'll ask Eric about some of the undefeated teams and some of the winless teams in the NFL. I'll also ask him about news off the field. I don't spend much time researching the Ray Rice and Adrian Peterson controversies, but there is a delicate balance between due process and these hot-button topics of domestic violence and child endangerment. You want your day in court, yet at the same time, the NFL has to protect its business interests. They made $10 billion last season in profits, did the NFL. Roger Goodell, he's more highly paid than any player in the NFL. He makes more than $50 million a year. I'll ask Eric Austin what he thinks about that Goodell's handling of the Ray Rice and Adrian Peterson situations when we return here on the EOG Sports Hour.
There's no such thing as a sure thing, unless you're talking about Ion Gaming. Ion Gaming is a website dedicated to the hearts and minds of sports bettors everywhere. If you're looking for smart, sophisticated sports handicapping information and insight,
go to EOG.com.
If you're looking for the latest news on the ever-changing landscape of Nevada's race and sportsbook industry,
go to EOG.com.
If you're looking for the most recent developments involving the worldwide sports betting scene with an emphasis on the leading sports books in San Jose, Costa Rica,
go to EOG.com.
And finally, if you're looking to join an online community of sports gamblers where registration is free and the information is priceless,
go to EOG.com.
You get the idea. Why gamble on other sports betting websites when Ion Gaming is a sure thing?
And I love a sure thing.
Hi, this is Rick Alec, president of Sports Options. Sports Options is a sports information tool designed to give sports bettors of all types the necessary edge needed to improve their bottom line. With Sports Options, you'll never lay a bad number again. We provide you with live odds from the leading sports books in the world, from Costa Rica to Curacao, London to Las Vegas, and everywhere in between. Sports Options also provides the fastest and most accurate injury information, lightning-quick score updates, and game analysis from 30-year handicapping veteran Mark Simons. We offer affordable services for players of all levels, starting at just $99 per month. To see which service best fits your needs, you can take advantage of our 7-day free trial. No credit card is needed. Just go to www.sportsoptions.com and click on the free trial link. I'm confident you'll be impressed with our product, and you'll find it the most complete and comprehensive on the market. In fact, if you don't like sports options after 30 days, we'll refund you 100% of your subscription costs, no questions asked. Go to sportsoptions.com for all the details or call 702-835-1743 and one of our friendly customer service representatives will be happy to help you. Sports Options, information you can bet on.
And we are back, the EOG Sports Hour. John Kelly with you on a Monday night. Glad to be representing EOG, Ion Gaming, a website dedicated to the hearts and minds of sports bettors everywhere. And Eric Austin is my featured guest tonight. He's one of my favorite gamblers in town. I know a lot of sports bettors, but there are some who separate themselves from others. I oftentimes mention guys like Ron Boyles, Aaron Renning, the aforementioned Waz, the guys who are on the street gambling, trying to gamble and win on a daily basis and betting serious money at the same time. Eric, good evening and welcome to the show.
Good evening, John. Before we get started, I told a friend of mine that I'd give him a shout-out, so I want to give a shout-out to a Dante Blatton. They're a loyal listener of yours, and they're always on me about giving them a quick hello. So I wanted to give them a quick hello before we get started. How are you this evening?
I'm good, Eric, and I'm glad to have you along for the ride. I mentioned you're an 84 graduate of Iowa State University. You had to be pleased with the Cyclones' 20-17 win over the Hawkeyes.
Yeah, I watched the game. I had plus 11, and those two teams are very. The dog is usually the right side in that series, and Iowa's got a better team and a better program most years. But Iowa State puts up a fight even when they're not really in the same ballpark as far as talent, and that's pretty much what happened this year. I mean, they had come off a Kansas State loss, and they were like, "Hey, this is going to be our whole season right here if we get a win," like most rivalry games. And they play it early in the year, so it's not a rivalry that's built up all season long, and the teams try to make their season at the end. They both play early before non-conference play. Before conference play to kind of really get the edge going for the season. So Iowa State was really ready for the game, and Iowa's just not that good, frankly. As you said before about the Big Ten teams.
11-21 is the Big Ten the last four bowl seasons. In bowl games, they've been miserable. Now, here in the month of September, miserable as well. I'm sure the bowl selection committee, that new 13-member committee, is taking note. The Big Ten is going to be hard-pressed to get anyone in the first-ever college football playoff. Or Final Four is not going to include a Big Ten team, highly unlikely anyway. What's wrong with the Big Ten? Eric, can you put your finger on it?
A friend of mine says to me, and he's a Californian, so he likes to brag about this problem. He says there's a lack of speed, whereas they used to recruit kids from Texas or the New Jersey area and get, shall we say, African Americans to come up there and play. Now kids don't want to go play there in the cold, and Michigan doesn't have the same cachet. Ohio State doesn't have the same cachet, so their recruiting is just not up to par. It's just 85 scholarships has kind of leveled out things, and just more schools involved in the recruiting area, and they just haven't been able to recruit the speed up there to really play in high-level competition. I mean, that was their problem in the 70s and 80s when they played the Rose Bowl all the time. They couldn't recruit enough speed to go out and play SC, so it's pretty much the same thing as it always been.
Mm-hmm. And I think the spread offenses too, with the programs like Oregon being very sexy, and Florida State doing what they're doing now. Some of the traditional powers are down. Texas not what it once was. Notre Dame has struggled in recent years. If you didn't embrace that spread offense, the fast-paced no-huddle spread, I think you're in trouble right now. You're playing catch-up to those who grabbed it early.
Absolutely, but you can't really play spread offense in Michigan in late November or late October for that matter, and you can't play it in Ohio State. You can't play it at Notre Dame. I mean, Oregon gets away with it because they're mostly dealing with rain, and places like West Virginia that started it with Rich Rod, they don't have the harshest of conditions in November. So I think that spread offense, if you look at it, it's only played in places where the conditions are mild. I mean, I would call it honestly, the Indianapolis Colts offense of the college football. The Colts play indoors, the Saints play indoors. That doesn't carry outdoors. Now you take these spread offenses, you can't play them in cold weather, and so they thrive in places that are hot, and the athletes are able to get out and and use their speed and their athletic ability.
The problem for the Big Ten, Eric, is the big money games are played at warm weather sites. That college football playoff, that's going to travel across different sites, and the semifinals will travel across 6 different sites, all at warm weather sites, in the bowl games in early January.
Absolutely, and back to my point about when they were in the 60s, 70s, and even in the 80s, they were able to recruit places like California or Texas or in the South, let's put it that way, when the Southern schools weren't taking the black athletes, so they were able to find speed in those places. Bubba Smiths, the Leroy Kellys, guys like that who were leaving the South to go to the North and play. As recruiting spread out, and Southern California kids wanted to stay at home, Texas kids wanted to stay at home, kids from Florida wanted to stay at home, then they got caught in a speed deficiency age, and that's pretty much how it's played out the last 20 years. I mean, you can see a Desmond Howard or an Anthony Carter every so often in the Big Ten, but you don't see too many real burners, and you don't see great skill athletes coming out of there very often anymore, and certainly not the last 10 years.
I'll add Ted Ginn Jr. The problem with those guys, Eric, is it's one, I don't want to say 1 in a million, but the fact that we're pointing out speed guys in the Big Ten and there are so few of them tells you the rest of the league is slow. Whereas the SEC,
exactly.
Whereas the SEC, everyone's fast, especially on the defensive end. I think that's where the SEC, it's funny, the Pac-12, it's offensive speed. The SEC, it's defensive speed. And for years, the Big Ten has struggled now against SEC opponents in bowl games because they just can't defend the big guys who can run. Little guys in the SEC can all run, but now the big guys in the SEC can run.
But what's the common denominator? You got all Pac-10 schools playing in warm weather. You got all Southern schools playing in warm weather. You have most of the African-American athletes in both of those areas and in Texas who aren't trying to go up north to play in the cold or play in places where it might get to even 40 degrees for that matter. So Alabama's not going to lose anybody to the Big Ten because a kid who can play in the SEC's not leaving. A kid who can play in the Big Ten, the Big 12 for that matter, Oklahoma schools, they're not leaving. And same thing, like I said, kids out west aren't leaving to go back east and play like they did 30 years ago or even longer for that matter. So, it's the weather is the biggest factor.
You're listening to the EOG Sports Hour. John Kelly with Eric Austin. Can we say the same thing about the MAC as we're saying about the Big Ten? Disadvantages that MAC schools would have in competing nationally.
Yeah, but they always had the same problem. I mean, they were getting Big Ten hand-me-downs and the Big 8 hand-me-downs, and the kids who couldn't play in the east part of the country, who didn't go to Syracuse or Penn State or Pitt, they were getting those hand-me-downs. So that hasn't changed. And actually, here's something else that people haven't probably really noticed is the Big Ten's turned into a basketball conference. They have more basketball champions in the last 40 years than they've had football champions. So they've turned into a basketball conference way more than a football conference. The difference is they have some of the biggest stadiums in college football, and that's where they get their Big Ten network founded on, and they get the rest of their traditions because they have some of the biggest stadiums in college football. The Big House is the biggest one, and Ohio State's in the top 10. Iowa plays to a full house every week at 65,000, 70,000. Penn State's Beaver Stadium's 100,000. Their smallest stadium is Northwestern. Everybody else is probably 60,000 or more.
And about Big Ten basketball, they've covered some great cities, great basketball cities. When you think about Chicago and the Detroit area, Indianapolis, basketball in Indiana in general, it's a religion. Iowa every now and then can produce a team. It's basketball in the Midwest it has such rich roots, and the tradition is there.
And they can also recruit nationally the whole conference because it's not the same thing. They realize basketball players anyway, realize that this is the dominant conference with, say, the ACC, and so they're more willing to sacrifice lifestyle conditions to go play there because they know they're probably going to be coached well, they're probably going to have a reasonable chance to get drafted, and therefore they'll take that leap of faith to go somewhere cold. Whereas the football players know, hey, that's the fifth conference now, the Big Five, in football, whereas they're probably 1 or 1A in basketball.
Very good point, and evidenced by that Big Ten ACC challenge that is presented every November. The Big Ten able to hook up with the ACC and further its reputation there. Whereas football, it's just I don't want to say it's falling off the map, but they need to do something to improve the conference. And I don't think adding Maryland and Rutgers helps the situation at all. It may add to the bottom line fiscally, but just aesthetically, adding Maryland and Rutgers, I'm not sure that's the right thing to do. I watched Maryland this past week. That was a poorly played game by the Terps, the losers 40-37 to West Virginia. I'll have an opinion on the Syracuse-Maryland game that goes this coming Saturday. I'll also have a baseball release for you, and Eric Austin is going to come with 2 baseball recommendations as well. Eric, this is a busy time of year. I'm spending most of it on pro and college football, even though I'm not a big NFL guy. I look at the NFL to try to find a player or two. College football, I'm no expert, but I try to find a winner every now and then. Really, baseball and basketball is my bread and butter. I've done a lot of my baseball work already, so it's easy when the schedule. I'm faced with a schedule of games. It's easy to cover the 15 in quick fashion. The plays jump out at you this time of year. But for pro and college football, I have to do a lot of research. I probably spent about 6 to 8 hours today looking at this past weekend's games.
Yeah, I have a friend who always shies me. He says in September everybody goes to run and bet football and they forget about baseball, which is what they've been doing for the past 4 months. So I try not to neglect baseball. I had a bad day in baseball. Actually, I had a good day in baseball, but I had one bad play that upset me. But overall, I try to keep my fingers in baseball the whole time. I told you a couple months ago when we were talking about win totals and stuff in football, people jump out the sky to bet the NFL. And if these first 2 weeks haven't shown people how difficult and crazy the NFL is, we won't never get it anyway. But I'm like you. College football, I have no problems in. I can find winners. I don't mind betting a lot of college totals, which I don't think they have a handle on yet. And I don't mind being bully ball and laying a lot of points, something I wasn't that fond of doing when I was younger, but now I have no problems doing it if I think I have the right side. But the NFL, to me, if I had any real courage, I probably would never bet it or bet only totals in it. But it's one of those sports where, you just bet it and you hope you're on the right side of an official's call every week.
Yeah.
If you can be on the right side of a couple calls, you win. If you can't, then you're breaking even or worse. And you described it perfectly when you said that the Colts were up 7 and they were driving and Luck drew a pick. Well, he drew a pick because the guy got grabbed and they didn't call a holding penalty or the illegal contact penalty, and the defense got away with a play. They made it. And then, of course, the Colts aren't going to stop anybody when they have to stop them to preserve a lead, and that's what happened. They let them drive down the field, tied it up, and then they went 3 and out with some, should we say, conservative play calling, and then Philly got the ball last and scored. So
what a class guy Andrew Luck is too. I jotted this down because I was listening to his post-game press conference. They asked him what he thought about the call. He said, "It doesn't matter what I think. It was an interception at the end of the day." And I like those guys who only concerned about the bottom line, doesn't want the cheap out, and never throws teammates under the bus. I like the guys who are in it to win it and have no excuses when they lose. Andrew Luck is that kind of guy, and he was on the wrong side of tonight's 30-27 final, which is pretty rare for Andrew Luck, Eric, because in his young NFL career, I believe he's now 15-3 in one-possession games. He usually wins the close ones. Yeah,
and he usually does. And there you go. Tonight, like I said, he took blame for the interception, which certainly wasn't his fault, but then he got the ball back tied, and his coaches ran 2 running plays up the middle. They got no yardage, and then they had an incompletion on 3rd down, and then they turned the ball right back over to Philly, and Philly won. I mean, Philly's been able to win some of these games under Kelly the last couple of years, and so they got caught in a situation where they're usually doing the rallying, and they gave the ball away to the other team, and that was pretty much the end of it.
Philly is 2-0, straight up 2-0 against the spread. There are 4 other NFL teams in that situation, Eric. Carolina, Buffalo, Houston, and a Cincinnati team that is still underrated, I do believe. I laid the spot with Cincy on Sunday, and they throttled the Atlanta Falcons pretty good Sunday.
Yeah, well, they're underrated because they went 8-0 last year until they laid an egg in the playoffs. So their season is probably going to be somewhat underrated most of the year because the odds makers are going to give them lots of credit on the road, at home, for their home record, but on the road they're probably not going to get as much attention as they are. And we'll see if they can wind up having, if not the best record in the league, the second best record in the division, in the conference, and see if they can take advantage of it this year.
What about the 7 teams that are now 0-2? Jacksonville, Oakland, Kansas City, the New York Giants, Tampa Bay, Indy after tonight's loss, and the New Orleans Saints are 0-2. Losers to Atlanta in Week 1 and losers to Cleveland yesterday.
Well, the first 5 teams, no one would have been surprised that they would start off 0-2. And then the last 2 you mentioned, the Colts and the Indy, well, Indy played two division champs, one on the road, one at home. They lost them both in one-possession games. And the Saints started with 2 games on the road and lost them both. I mean, the Saint team is probably the same team they were 2 years ago when they were giving up points by the buckets. I mean, they gave up 37 the first game and 30 the second game. So, there's no surprise to me that they're 0-2 because they have to win in shootouts, and they lost 2 shootouts. And like I said, Indy played 2 division champs and lost to them both. So I mean that's why the NFL is what it is, because the strong eat each other up and the weak get to feast off of each other. So if you're a weak team like the Texans, now you got a 4th place schedule in this year. You beat the Redskins, a 3rd place team. You beat the Raiders, a last place team, and then you got the Giants coming up here, a last place team. Who would imagine that the Texans, off of 2 wins last season, would be favored in all 3 of their first 3 games this year? So, and they won 2 of them, covered them both, and they're favored this week against the Giants on the road. So, that's the NFL in a nutshell right there.
And
a 2-14 team can be favored their first 3 games of the following season.
Yeah, and you have to understand the scheduling to understand the NFL. It's the NFL's version of welfare. The weak teams playing the weak teams the following year. That's the way to promote parity. And you have some comments on Week 3 in the NFL in terms of division games. I see Cleveland is home to Baltimore, a game out of the AFC North, and a game in the NFC North is Detroit home to Green Bay. You have a point to make about the Browns-Ravens game and the Lions-Packers game.
Yeah, I was in the book with a friend of mine, Akeem Jones, this evening while we were watching the Colt game, and I looked up at the board during a timeout or something. I said, man, can you believe this? I said, when's the last time Cleveland's been favored against the Ravens since they've been reincarnated? And when's the last time the Lions have been favored against the Packers since Favre was playing, except last year when Rodgers was hurt? For stat guys, trend guys, guys who are in the analytics and stuff, I'm sure they can go back, and they probably won't find one time where the Browns have been favored at home against the Ravens since 1999. And other than last year and Thanksgiving, the Packers probably have not been an underdog, certainly with Favre there and Rodgers, since the early 90s when Barry Sanders was playing there. So, I mean, to me, that's just highly peculiar, both those lines. Whether or not they cover, I haven't really delved into it. But my first idea was, wow, those 2 teams are actually favored? I mean, that's just a surprise to me.
You're listening to the EOG Sports Hour. John Kelly with Eric Austin, Las Vegas-based sports bettor. Glad to have Eric joining us on the program on short notice. Mike Corrigan, a late scratch, but he'll be here next Monday night. I appreciate Eric's contributions to the show. What's happening with Roger Goodell and the NFL? Talk about a nightmare in terms of public relations. First, it's Ray Rice, and now it's Adrian Peterson. Rice and the domestic abuse, and Peterson with the child endangerment. Your thoughts on the Rice-Peterson situations?
John, I got to be very careful with what I say on both these situations, partly because they're totally different situations. And I think, first off, no guy should ever put his hands on a woman. Under no circumstances should you lose enough control that you would put your hands on a loved one, your girlfriend, your wife, someone you want to make your girlfriend. So that Ray Rice situation, I can't imagine flipping out enough and being in that situation where I would do such a thing. I know gentlemen who feel like they shouldn't do it, but sometimes they're with a woman and she says the wrong thing at the wrong time, and they know it's not the right thing, but that's their attitude. I personally, like I said, can't imagine flipping out to that degree. But I think part of the situation is we've had a lot of political correct commentary on the Ray Rice situation, because once he got the 2-game suspension, everybody was upset and brouhaha and made a big deal about it, and then they had to wait for the video to come out to really go up in arms. One of our local radio stations here, their guys have been on it talking about, he should have done this, he should have done that right away. But if the term domestic violence is attached to a situation that you're in, that's the end of it. There's no what happened, or did he hit her, did he not hit her, or did she punch him? I mean, if it's a domestic violence situation, those words attached to any situation you're in, you, the guy, is always in a bad light. I mean, I have friends who I tell, since O.J. caused the problem that he had with his ex-wife, Nicole Robinson, that you don't want the cops or anyone in your personal love life, and if something like you get in a dispute in my public place, someone's going to take a phone picture or call the cops or anything else. I mean, you had a situation with Greg Hardy, who the woman next door said, I heard him beating her up, and I was up in the room and this and that. So it's not going to be private. So if you get in a dispute with your loved one, it's just going to blow up in your face. So in Ray Rice's situation, I think he certainly didn't use his head, and it blew up in his face, and all the political correctness came out afterwards. I mean, guys who want to say they shouldn't have done it or he shouldn't have done it, but I don't see the NFL rushing out and giving millions of dollars to battered women's societies and things like that. So I just think that all of us men know better than that, and in his case, he let a quick minute, a quick second ruin his life probably.
Yeah.
I mean, he'll never make the financial money that he made in the past, and his name will already be attached to it.
Yeah, crime in this society too, Eric. Crimes against women, crimes against children, really taken harshly too. The courts usually throw the book at people who do perpetuate crimes against women or children, and rightfully so. I mean, we need
absolutely
we need to protect those who are unprotected, and oftentimes, those situations can really be ugly. What about and let me ask you about Ray Rice and the Baltimore Ravens. Any impact on the Ravens' play moving forward?
Probably not. I think they got a big boost by beating the Steelers when this all came about, and everybody says running backs are replaceable, so more than likely that's the case, that it won't have any lingering effects. But just one more minute, John, about domestic violence before I really tell you about Peterson and what I think of his situation. You didn't see the owner of the team, Ozzie Newsome, or any other male figure come right out and say, hey, we can't tolerate this, we can't have this, we love Ray, but he's got to go. And that's part of our problem in society with a lot of our social ills. We all get up in arms about it if it's somebody we know or someone connected to us. But if it's a neighbor woman that gotten beat up and no one knew about her, no one says a word. I mean, when women have been in this domestic violence situation since the start of time, and it gets attention and it goes away. And I think that's a major problem in our society. You ask me, the NFL should spend tons of money trying to make amends for Ray's situation by helping women who've been in the situation like his wife. As far as Peterson goes, now there is a very gray area, because now I think we're bordering on telling people how to parent their kids, and I haven't seen the video of exactly how bad his kid was injured or this or that, but I would certainly doubt that he was trying to injure his kid in any real manner. He told the mother of the child, this is what I did to him. I tried to teach him a parenting lesson, and now it's in the matter of how do you discipline your child, and that's a black-white issue, because there's a lot of people who discipline their child one way, and there's a ton of black people who discipline their child a different way. And so that's an issue to me that is going to be really interesting how it turns out, because once again, it's a situation where his personal affairs wound up in the street, so to speak, through no fault of his own, and now he'll have to answer to, however he has to answer to the courts and everything else. But I don't think at all he was trying to severely hurt his child or do any harm to his child.
And more accusations are coming out on this Adrian Peterson story. It's kind of a developing situation. I hear there's a situation in Texas, something similar, where Peterson may have had a hand in disciplining one of his children. So it's not a story that's going to go away anytime soon. And back to the PR, back to the betting angle. Eric, funny the way the number danced in this New England Minnesota game initially with Peterson in the lineup. New England was a 3-point road favorite against Minnie. Word came that Peterson would not play. New England popped up to 6 and then driven back down closer to game time. There was support in the marketplace for the Minnesota Vikings as a home underdog, and we all know what happened. The Patriots clocked the Vikings 30-7.
Now, I would say this, and I watched that game, and Castle threw with 4 picks. I would say this, that Peterson's effect will have a lingering, lasting effect. Now, he's supposed to play this week unless the information that comes out is harsh, more harsh than now, because the Vikings had reinstated him and was going to let him play in practice. But I'll add one other point to this, and I'm not 100% sure on all my facts, so I'll stand corrected if I'm slightly wrong. A friend of mine's told me he's got 4 kids, which at least probably 3 different mothers. I'm not sure if he's got if they're all with one mother or 2 mothers, but I would say that because he's got more kids with more women or a couple different women, and he may have some disputes with those ladies over parenting, over child support, over what have you, over lack of attention from the women themselves, which in turn, if he does anything to parent his kids when he has them in his custody, then obviously that's an angle in the situation that unfortunately women have sometimes used to their advantage and to the disadvantage of the child and to the father. So, but I won't say that with any 100% certainty. I just say that he's in a bad situation where all of this is concerned. But I severely doubt if he ever tried to severely injure his child in any way, shape, or form.
I would give him the benefit of the doubt. I agree with you there. And who does that, right? I mean,
right.
I don't think Adrian Peterson, maybe he did cross the line in terms of the punishment, but he did not.
Harshness of it, he might have done it longer than he thought he was doing it, and the 4-year-old certainly couldn't have stood up to it. And I'm not sure of the other ages of his children, so that might have been it. And I'll add just one more quick point because it just popped in my head, John. They used the term switch when they said he used an instrument on his child. And I'm from the Midwest, and being a black gentleman, I can tell you that's a part of a tree that sometimes is real rubbery, that you can take off a tree and it has some elasticity to it where it snaps back and forth like a rubber band, so to speak, and you can use it and smack your child with it, and it won't break easily, and it won't break easily. So you can get 3 or 4 lashes or 5 lashes or however many you're trying to do. Now, his child at 4 was probably too young for such an instrument, but it's not a tree branch where it's designed to break a bone or something. It's more meant to be on the back of your legs or the back of your behind, sometimes with clothes on, sometimes without clothes on, to where it stings more than anything, and it kind of obviously is going to send a message to you. And I'm sure he just, being 6'3", 220, probably wasn't paying attention, probably wasn't cognizant of his own strength, and went longer than he probably should have for a child that age. But at no time would I ever say he was trying to injure his child.
Yeah,
but that particular instrument will leave more damage if you do it for an extended period of time.
And that's the problem with physical punishment, from an adult to a child, is that, are you going to hit harder the madder you are?
Right.
And you would hope you could deal with these situations verbally, not physically, to challenge the child in different ways to get your same point across.
22, you have to decide what's best for your child. Now, at 4 years old, he probably figured he could speak to the child, but the child might not have gotten the information, and he probably figured that old story. They tell you don't put your hand on the fire. You put your hand on the fire and you burn yourself. So now you remember. So I mean, it's a really a gray area when you try to discipline your child versus how someone else says to do it, or the textbook claims to do it, whatever. And being a young father, 29 years old, 28 years old, 27 years old, and dealing with the other situations, whether it's with the mother of the child or whatever, he simply didn't gauge the proper avenue of going about doing it.
I think we know why the Minnesota Vikings have been at the bottom of that division for a while now. More player arrests since 2000 on the Minnesota Vikings than any other team in the league, and something Andy Isko, a local handicapper, likes to talk about, Eric. You have to handicap the organizations from the top down, and character plays a big part in it. And when guys go bad like this, it's not surprising to me that if they're not doing the right things off the field, sometimes they don't do the right things on the field either.
Well, I'll add this to your thing, and I'll leave it at that. Minneapolis is one of the top 5 party towns in this country as far as clubs, band, music, entertainment, anything that a young person could ask for between 20 and 30. Minneapolis has it in spades. So, and for the demographic who plays on the Vikings, they get a lot more than a lot of other places. So I'll just leave it at that.
Mm-hmm. About Matt Castle, you mentioned the 4 interceptions. I remember Castle at USC, career backup to guys like Carson Palmer and Matt Leinart. He made the league, and he's a starting quarterback in the league, but maybe not for long. How far is behind is Teddy Bridgewater? When will we see Teddy start his career in Minneapolis?
Honestly, I would say that with all this going on, I say they don't put him in there till week 11 or 12. He might play the last 3 or 4 games of the year. They're not going to expose him and let him lose his confidence if the season's already gone. And so when they're 2-8 or 3-7, 4-8, then he might see the last 4 games. But I don't think they're going to put him in there and let him lose his confidence. And without Peterson, their offense is going to be, and they're going to have some good days, but they're going to have far more bad days than good days.
You're listening to the EOG Sports Hour. John Kelly with Eric Austin, talking sports and sports betting. Sidetracked a bit with the Rice-Peterson discussions. We'll try to curb that later this week. Talk mainly sports betting. Eric is here with 2 selections for us. Eric, you mentioned a game that went bad for you. Do you mind reliving it?
Yeah, I played the Kansas City Royals on the run line. They were minus 260 with Shields. He was coming in off on an 18-inning scoreless streak, so I thought he'd shut down the White Sox. They wound up winning the game 4-3. Didn't cover the run line, but won the game. They scored 2 runs in the bottom of the 9th. With 2 outs, 1 on a wild pitch. Guy scores from second base, and then the next runner gets a hit, goes to second. They pinch run for him. They hit a chopper over the pitcher's head, stays in the infield, and the runner from second scores again. So, and that happens when you lay a run line once in a while.
Yeah, it's tough to win by 2 or more runs. In fact, today there were 3 games that ended 1-0. So if you took a run and a half in those 3 games, go cash. Including the game at Petco Park. 2-hour, 9-minute quickie. Cashner and Williams hooked up in a duel. Padres got the money over the Phillies, 1-0 the final there. Rizzo came back to the Cubs lineup, hit a homer to win the game against the Reds at Wrigley. 1-0 was the final there, and the other 1-0 final was a game that made our friend Hustle Double happy. He went to 9-6 in EOG's Grand Challenge when the Rays beat the Yankees 1-0. Colome and Capuano were the confirmed starters there, and Ben Zobrist, the game's lone RBI. Eric, your plays for tomorrow. You've got 2 MLB selections for us.
Both of these were winners I had today, so I'm coming back with them tomorrow. Game 974 is Minnesota-Detroit. I like it over 8. I laid the 8, bet over 8 earlier this evening. And game 951 is the Nationals at the Braves. The Nationals won 4-2 today, and it's Tanner Rourke going tomorrow against Harang, and the Braves are a dead team. And Nationals will go ahead and clinch it at their home park tomorrow, at Atlanta's home park.
So betting number 951, the Washington Nationals over the Atlanta Braves. Go ahead and lay the short price, currently $1.30 at Pinnacle, and go over the total at Target Field in Minneapolis, the Twins and Tigers to go over the total of 8. Eric, thanks for the contributions tonight. My treat to lunch tomorrow. I'll see you around the noon hour.
I'll talk to you then, and thanks again, John. You guys, you have a great night now.
Eric Austin on the program. I'll step aside, take a quick timeout right here. When we return, I'll come with my 2 plays. I like a baseball game going tomorrow and a college football selection for Saturday. You're listening to the EOG Sports Hour.
There's no such thing as a sure thing, unless you're talking about Ion Gaming. Ion Gaming is a website dedicated to the hearts and minds of sports bettors everywhere. If you're looking for smart, sophisticated sports handicapping information and insight,
Go to EOG.com.
if you're looking for the latest news on the ever-changing landscape of Nevada's race and sportsbook industry,
Go to EOG.com.
if you're looking for the most recent developments involving the worldwide sports betting scene with an emphasis on the leading sports books in San Jose, Costa Rica,
Go to EOG.com.
and finally, if you're looking to join an online community of sports gamblers where registration is free and the information is priceless,
Go to EOG.com.
you get the idea. Why gamble on other sports betting websites when Ion Gaming is a sure thing?
And I love a sure thing.
Hi, this is Rick Alec, president of Sports Options. Sports Options is a sports information tool designed to give sports bettors of all types the necessary edge needed to improve their bottom line. With Sports Options, you'll never lay a bad number again. We provide you with live odds from the leading sports books in the world, from Costa Rica to Curacao, London to Las Vegas, and everywhere in between. Sports Options also provides the fastest and most accurate injury information, lightning-quick score updates, and game analysis from 30-year handicapping veteran Mark Simons. We offer affordable services for players of all levels, starting at just $99 per month. To see which service best fits your needs, you can take advantage of our 7-day free trial. No credit card is needed. Just go to www.sportsoptions.com and click on the free trial link. I'm confident you'll be impressed with our product, and you'll find it the most complete and comprehensive on the market. In fact, if you don't like Sports Options after 30 days, we'll refund you 100% of your subscription costs, no questions asked. Go to sportsoptions.com for all the details, or call 702-835-1743, and one of our friendly customer service representatives will be happy to help you. Sports Options, information you can bet on.
Time now for the JK Play of the Day. This is John Kelly's single strongest recommendation against the current numbers at the M Resort here in Las Vegas.
Two plays for the price of none. Syracuse -1 over Maryland. That's my college football selection. Betting number 318, Syracuse -1. Love the tune-up Syracuse had on Saturday. 40-3 winners over Central Michigan. Central Michigan never had a chance to score, really. Syracuse's defense was outstanding on Saturday. I think they'll be good this Saturday, too, against a Maryland offense that struggled in the second half of their game against West Virginia. Syracuse beat Maryland last year 20-3. I see more of the same this year. Keep it simple. West Virginia defeated Maryland on a 47-yard field goal as time expired. I mentioned the final 40-37. In that game, Maryland was down 28-6 in the second quarter. They did rally somewhat, but not in the late stages of that game. Maryland did not record a first down in the fourth quarter. They were 0 for 4 on third down in the fourth, and they were 0 for 3 on third down in the third quarter. Meantime, the Maryland defense was miserable, allowing 511 yards passing to West Virginia, allowing 4 touchdown passes as well. The team with the better defense at home, laying 1. I'll take Syracuse minus the small spot against Maryland. My Major League Baseball selection, go to PNC Park. The Pirates take on the Red Sox, game 1 of a 3-game series. Charlie Morton back off the DL. He wasn't very good before he went on the DL with a sports hernia, and he's been pitching with pain since early June. Now, the rest may help, but I'm going to go over the total of 7.5 runs. Anthony Renato gets the start for the Red Sox. I believe this is his 6th Major League start. He's a fly ball pitcher who will surrender the long ball on occasion. I know no Dustin Pedroia for the Red Sox, but David Ortiz is going to be back in the lineup after he left Sunday's game for personal reasons. He should be in the lineup starting for the Red Sox tomorrow. I'm going to go over the total of 7.5 runs. The Pirates have been playing good baseball the last week, winners of 8 of their last 10. I think they get to Renato, and I think the Red Sox score on Morton. Go over the total of 7.5 runs at PNC Park. That'll wrap up our fast-moving show. Special thanks to Eric Austin for appearing on tonight's program. Alan Dinkinson joins the show tomorrow night. Our conversation continues at EOG.com.